Hello, and you're listening to the Zone of Hot Truth, a weekly podcast by 4 aspiring DMs who discuss their opinions, experiences, and hot takes in supposedly 15 minutes. I'm Kevin.
I'm Eric.
I'm John.
I'm Grant. Are we just giving up on the intro snippets?
I didn't have anything.
I'm not your monkey.
All right, never mind.
I don't dance on your strings.
Jesus Christ. Okay.
Very professional here.
Are we? No, we're not. We don't get paid to do this. So,
Yet.
do we? Do we get paid? I guess we do.
Not yet.
A few cents, yeah. We're like
I ain't
panhandlers of
seen
podcasters.
shit yet.
Yeah. It's like old HQ. You have to make $20 before you can cash out.
Oh.
All right. So, our topic for today
That's why
is
HQ
going to
died.
be to answer. God damn it! To answer why HQ died. To answer the question, should you run the campaign as is? So there are a number of books out there. I think Watsbaya. I'm not going to say WoTC. I've gotten people to say WoTC. Holy shit! I just realized that. Wizards of the Coast. So should we run those kinds of things as is? What do we think? Yes, no?
No.
Wait, no, you changed yours, Eric. I'm also no, but
I think you should be able to.
Yes.
wildly
Who
thrown
wants to
off.
start?
Okay. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about. Wait a minute. Okay, I'm going to get this because I like starting with this. What or no's? Why? Explain.
No. I don't think WoTC writes proper adventures for
Oh boy,
Oh,
Jesus
God.
Christ!
for actual play. I think their level 1s, level 2s even, are insanely dangerous, and they have been for the past forever, which doesn't actually track with how 5th edition players want to run their games. Player death's not supposed to happen that often in a 5th edition game, especially at level 1. Yet, if you read any of the past recent books, and from what I've heard, that goes back even farther, or that just spans the entire questline stuff that they've written. No, you shouldn't be able to, because WoTC's not trying to actually enable you to.
But I think you should be able to, because you shouldn't need a ton of experience coming in to actually DM and run the game for people. The book, in a perfect world, the book should be prepared in such a way to where you can just pick it up and just run the adventure as is, because you have to start somewhere. So you should be able to.
My job should pay me $1 million, expecting it to, and there's a certain amount of reality you have to accept.
All right, let me give the actual no, and not just the WoTC bad unga bunga answer. The actual answer is
God damn.
Oh my god.
the actual
unga bunga?
answer. I did say unga bunga, like caveman,
Okay.
Captain
Yeah,
Caveman.
got it.
Anyway, so the actual answer is, so no two parties are created equally. I have two wildly different players that I'm running, like groups of players that I'm running Gross Assault March for. I have one that is very conversational and puzzle solving oriented, and one that is very walk up and stab the monster oriented. Those two
door kicking.
Yes, door kickers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those two players, I'm running the same campaign for both of them. WoTC shouldn't have to develop either two different entirely books for both of those players, or develop one book that is trying to please both of those players. That is my job as DM, to create an environment and set of challenges and encounters that different types of players will actually want to run.
That's a valid point, but at the same time, even if you should be able to run the adventure as is from the book, that's not to say you wouldn't be allowed to adapt things or you couldn't make changes, but I do think the crux of this question is the framework of what they provide you should be enough to basically run the adventure for a party, and then you can add whatever flair or deviations you might want to as a DM to help kind of work with the party. But again, the framework for a complete adventure should be there, with correct balance and decent storylines and quests and rewards, everything you need for the adventure.
Yeah. So I think my problem with what John is saying is that I don't think it's very clear to new DMs or I think this comes from experience, the notion of like being able to tweak the campaign to where you see fit versus going down a particular track. My problem with that is I understand that I totally agree with that. But those books don't really make that clear that's how you should run these. It's never like, I feel like if it is, it's like a sideline thing. It's like it might say like in the forward, like some things, or like if they decide to do this blah, if they decide to do that blah, but it never has like a reminder to the players like, hey, or to DMs, I should say, that, you know, this is not supposed to be completely set in stone, right? And I think that's the problem, and people run into that and they get mortified for the reasons Eric mentioned in terms of like, oh god, my players I TPK'd my group. Oops.
You were 100% right, Kevin, that it's not obvious. In a game that I'm currently playing in.
Oh yeah, that's a good example.
That I have had to explain to the DM when he said, yeah, in the book it just gives me this quest, like it just says that there's this goblin out there that this guy's looking for, but it doesn't give me anything to work with to run that for you. And I said, yes, that's your job. That's the DM's job. You're right. It's not apparent.
But when you play WoTC, $50, sometimes more. Like they should do that. God. That's their job. Like
it isn't.
Yes,
everybody's
it is.
face palming, by the way.
No, like okay, so it is WoTC's job. Because
I agree,
or it's
but...
like, yeah, if they're going to give you an adventure and they write in the book, like, and they also know that that's why people buy them, is to run them as is. Most people don't buy them to cannibalize. Like, they got to give you something. Got to give, especially new DMs. WoTC's well aware that 5th edition has expanded to more people, and many more new players are running D&D, and they don't have. The books don't give them these tools. They don't empower the DMs to say, okay, they're going to go in this direction, where maybe don't just drop a single line and say, figure it out. No, I paid you $50 to tell me like how to figure it out.
No,
really
you paid
quickly
50.
Before.
Go.
No, go ahead. No, Grant, and then I'll say. I was going to say this really quick thing. What they should do is, there should just be a YouTube link to Koval and every fucking at the top of every page.
Yeah, slide
just to reinforce that.
If you want to run this adventure as is, please read Slide Flourish or the Alexandrian, who will remix this into a playable adventure
in an unreadable format.
Anyway,
and this
go
is
Grant and then John.
Understandable.
Yeah.
Because to add to John's point, and this is coming from someone who, like, I basically homebrew all of my campaigns, but even coming from this perspective, and the example you gave, John, of, like, it says there's a goblin in the woods, but I have nothing, it's not that hard for the WoTC to just write 3 sentences as a suggestion. It's like, he's looking for the goblin in X woods, and just come up with, like, 2 or 3 sentences. Like, they could run into 1d6 wolves, just to a running joke we have with ourselves, as a random encounter while they're looking through the woods to search for them. It's not that hard, and that was like a 2-sentence suggestion. Run into wolves, or maybe there's a hermit in town who could help guide them through the woods. It's not hard to offer suggestion.
Yeah, well, so I guess here's the thing. I just want to kind of nip that in the bud in terms of the wording of like it's not that hard to suggest. I'm sure they get this suggested a lot, and maybe they make the considerations to like do that. I think that's totally a can of worms, but I have a problem of like the totally kind of going in a backseat. Whoa, they should do this because they should have known. I don't like that. Yeah,
they have hundreds of millions of dollars.
That's fair.
Yeah,
but
yeah, I just want to. Yeah, I agree with what you're saying for the most part, except for like that one bit. Here's the thing I want to ask then. So I think we all have like the opinions are across the spectrum. If we were to have a module, what should that do? Like, what should that be? Should it just be a framework of like what you need to do, or like something more akin to like a campaign setting with a few like quest lines throughout? Is something more akin to what we're looking for?
Campaign settings are worthless.
Similar to the campaign setting.
So, like, okay, the difference of what you're
maybe
describing is, okay, what a campaign setting is a picture of a house and saying, here, build your house. It could be any house that you want it to be.
Can of worms.
Yeah, a campaign module, as they print them now, are rough blueprints of this is where... this is the materials you need, this is the wall frames that you build, what's inside the house, you can kind of feng shui to be whatever you want. What it sounds like Grant is asking for is, here is this pre-made Sims house. Have your players walk through it. Boy, I hope they walk through it in the way that I want them to.
Well,
I don't think he was saying it just like that, but
not like that, but that's how I'm
That's
interpreting.
not quite what I was going for.
Run it out of the box exactly as is, so new players don't need to do anything, or like new DMs don't need to do anything. That's what you are asking for.
It's scope. Every Wizards of the Coast adventure that they're putting out has to be 1 to 15 because their marketing department tells them that's going to sell the most product. Instead, if they put out a similarly page counted adventure, level 1 to 3, and really fleshed out a town and really fleshed out various hooks. Oh, I forgot.
They did that. It's called Waterdeep, and it's bad, and everybody hated it.
That's 1 to 5, and also, it's bad because it's bad. It's not bad because it's 1 to 5. It's also considered one of the best in-depth portrayals of a city. So
yes, that's fair.
Yeah, it's just the adventure sucks because Wizards of the Coast. But if you write something, you get to 1 to 3 because 5th edition players don't play 1 to 3 because they don't. If you did a level 3 to 5 adventure and just really focused on giving a really immersive experience to a village or town or city, I don't see why they couldn't do that.
There's no reason they couldn't.
They don't.
Because that's not the duration. As a whole, it seems the direction and the desire of campaigns is longer than 3 levels. People want the grand fantasy story, which takes more than 3 levels. And you can cobble those together, but that's what fucking Saltmarsh is unrelated modules stapled together. Again, it's the pieces and saying you put them together how you want. But that's not the same. You can't. That's not what people want.
It's not what people want to buy.
I think maybe it's just because it might be like more difficult to kind of write them more disjointed in that way. You know, like here are things you can take out or leave, and the story is still intact. Is something that they don't want to do. I wonder. Because again, for scope, it's supposed to be like a more kind of a railroad type thing, even though it's not really written as such. Go ahead.
I mean, one solution could be they could just have 2 different types of adventures they publish. One where, kind of in the traditional sense they do now, where I consider them to be a little bit bare bones and harder to use for some new DMs.
That's generous.
And then they could have a version where it's way more fleshed out, like maybe a shorter arc, but you could run it almost as is, because the people who don't need the completely fleshed out, I'm going to run this as is, that book's still going to be useful to them. And the people who kind of need or want that book can buy it, and then they can kind of have a more curated first-time experience, DMing for a new group of people. And it's like, oh, I like getting the hang of this. I see what to do. And then they could switch to the other books that are maybe kind of more traditional if they feel like it. But even if but the book would still be useful to both parties, like the super detailed one. Why not try to do it?
Money. And also focus testing.
Time.
Are probably the 2 things. Time.
That's focus testing. Kevin, I think you pointed out a good thing. Like WoTC has way more data than are for dumbasses. Like they are doing the thing that makes Eric's making a face, but like they're doing the thing that their research and time and investigation has said this is the thing that people will buy the most.
Yes, exactly. It's not their focus testing is not how can this be as useful as possible. It's how many of these books that are going to fall apart after we mail them out. How many people are going to buy these? They don't actually care about can a DM use this. They care about will a DM and also will all the players, which is why they dump a lot of class features in campaign books now.
That's bad. They shouldn't do that.
Will they buy them?
Yeah.
Which is why they brought all of that shit into Tasha's, despite you thinking that's can of worms. That's can of worms. Yeah, I can fight you on that.
Also can of worms.
Me fighting Eric? Yes.
Yeah. So, I think we're coming to the end of this. Why don't we go ahead and just give our final, turning it all the way back around. Should you be able to run a campaign as is? What do we think? Tweet.
No, I don't. I don't think you should. Your players are going to do some. You should enable your players to think outside the box, and as a first-time DM, expecting the campaign book to do that is just...
No, you should not be expected to. Every D&D party, every group of players is different in some way. They're going to want to do different things than the exact thing that's in the book. You have to have some space to play in that, and have to have some ability to think on your own, improvise, and create new content.
I think you should be able to, because there's a difference between being able to and saying you must. Just because you should be able to run from the book as is, because you can always change it yourself if you want.
Yeah, I would like it to be the case that the new DM can pick up the book and just run the campaign. But I think this is something I didn't get into, but as a DM, you should be able to kind of look at this. You gain the legs to look at it, assess, pull out, modify, and do what you will with what's there. And I think that's something that is key to the key skill to acquire, whether that's said or not. Anyway, you can reach us at zoneofhottruth@gmail.com if you have any questions or topic suggestions or the like. You can reach us through Twitter, which would probably be one of the better ways. And you can find some of our stuff on Anchor as well. The last thing I'll go ahead and leave you all with is just thank you for listening and keep rolling those dice.